Welcome again to the Old Principle, an English instructional program, usually a story, sometimes from my life, sometimes from history, sometimes I don't know where from. Oh, the internet. All sorts of sources, 很多不同的来源. Well, today we have an interesting one called the Juicy Red Killer. Okay, do you know what a killer is? 杀手. Now, do you recognize what those are? What are those? Those are, well, let's ask Mrs. Ash what they are. We need our storyteller here. So, Mrs. A, we're looking over there. What are those?
Those are tomatoes.
You remember how to say it in Chinese?
番茄.
Oh, whoa, you remembered. There actually is a different name for it besides 番茄, but I forgot what it is. But don't worry. Let's read the story. So
Sure.
There you go.
Okay. At the county courthouse in Salem, New Jersey in 1820, a crowd of curious onlookers gathered. The county fair was in progress, and they pushed one another from side to side, eagerly waiting to witness a daring feat. It was not so much thought of as daring as to be utter folly. Soon a man appeared on the steps, holding in one hand a piece of poisonous fruit that had been part of the fair's decorations. As he held it up for all of them to see, many people in the crowd whispered excitedly to one another, "Is he really going to eat it?" The man was Colonel Robert Gibbon Johnson, and the fruit was a tomato. In those days, many people called the fruit the love apple. Strange name for what most people consider to be a deadly poison. The crowd gasped in horror as the colonel placed the tomato in his mouth and ate it with apparent relish. They waited breathlessly, expecting soon to see him collapse on the courthouse steps, writhing and dying in agony. But nothing happened. Instead, praising the color and texture, he ate a second tomato, explaining that tomatoes were delicious, either cooked or raw. He then invited the onlookers to join him in his meal, and a few of the braver ones went forward. Soon they too were relishing the tomato's flavor. The news spread quickly across the state and the nation. Eventually, tomatoes became a widely accepted article of diet, providing a primary source of minerals and vitamins A and C. Today, the United States grows about 9 million metric tons of tomatoes yearly, and there are more varieties of tomatoes sold than of any other fruit. It's hard for us to imagine that there was ever a day when tomatoes would be called poisonous, when they were considered a killer fruit.
Wow. I had never ever heard about it. I mean, today for lunch, we are going to eat a love apple. Well, we're going to eat a tomato. What are they called? 西红柿. That's what that's. But you and I usually say 番茄. Maybe 西红柿. Okay, you are free.
Okay.
You can go. Thanks for reading.
Sure.
Okay, the Juicy Red Killer. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in America, they considered this fruit to be poison. Juicy. Okay, juicy red. Juicy means 果汁多 okay 果汁多 okay and then of course red killer. Okay, here we go. Let's begin. At the county courthouse. County in America you can say that as 县 okay 法院 okay 县的法院 and then in Salem New Jersey 这个美国的一个地名这个城市是 Salem New Jersey 是州 in 1820 man, that's almost 200 years ago. Almost 200 years ago, a crowd of curious 一群人 okay, they are described as being curious, okay, and it says curious onlookers gathered, okay, 集在那个地方 begins to gather. But what is an onlooker? Well, think about how English sometimes is put together. You are looking at something, and we often say, I am looking on something. I am looking at something. So a crowd of curious, 蛮有 how do you say, 好奇 okay, 人来要看一看 What are they interested in looking at going on? The county fair was in progress. Now, I must tell you that in America, in August, in America, we have 农展会, okay? And so people bring their fruits and their vegetables, their sheep, 羊, and cows, 牛. Oh, man, all sorts of things. This is 农展会. And some other things too. The food that they cook, okay? Sometimes the pictures they paint or draw, 他们所画的图. Once a year, we have this, okay? The county fair was in progress, 正在举行, okay? And they pushed one another from side to side, 推来推去, 推来推去, okay? Oh, eagerly, 很有兴趣, 很有兴奋的等待什么? 见证 Okay, a daring feat. What is a daring feat? Okay, 一个大胆的市场 Okay, somebody is going to do something. And the next sentence tells you a little bit more. It was not so much thought of as daring, 并不是想的是很大胆的，反而人家觉得 utter folly, 根本 utter, 根本 utter, 根本是 folly, it's crazy, 很愚蠢的 people don't do this. Now, of course, at this point in the story, we don't know what they're talking about. We don't know what we're talking about, whether they're going to jump off of a building. But in this case, we read on and it says, going on, soon a man appeared. 有一个人就出来了 on the steps. So he's standing on the 法院的前面不是有一些楼梯吗? Okay, holding in one hand. Oh, that's too bad. We should have brought our tomato because we're going to eat a tomato today for lunch. I know because I already saw It was fixed. Holding in one hand a piece of poisonous fruit, 有毒的水果，有毒的水果。That had been part of the fair's decorations. Now, this is 这个农场会的 decorations, okay, 装饰品. So people weren't going to eat it, they were just going to look at it. But then somebody comes out and says, I have in my hand. And everybody was going on. As he held it up for all of them to see, many of the people in the crowd whispered excitedly to one another. Okay, so he's holding it up. Many of the people in the crowd, 这个群众很多人, okay, excitedly whispered. What is whispering? 轻轻地讲. They're whispering. So, what are they whispering? Okay, excitedly. 很兴奋的. They're whispering, is he really going to eat it? 他真的要吃它吗? Going on. He held it up for them to see. Okay? And they said, is he really going to eat it? Going on. The man was Colonel Robert Gibbon Johnson. This is the person's name, Robert Gibbon Johnson. Colonel means 上校, 这个军队的上校. Okay? Robert Gibbon Johnson. Nowadays, we don't use that, but in those days, they often use that as a title, something like doctor or something. And the fruit was a tomato. How does some people say tomato, but Americans say tomato. Okay, 西红柿, 番茄. Okay, we saw that. Now, going on. In those days, 那时代. In this case, in those days, 那个时代. Many people call the fruit the love apple. Now, this is strange reasoning. I cannot figure this out. And that's the reason why I wrote it this. People called it the love apple. 爱情的水果. Love apple. Okay? And I consider it a very strange name, okay, for what most people thought was deadly poison. Why would you want to give a tomato to somebody you loved if the person would die, right? So why would you want to do that? Of course, you wouldn't want to do that. It was a very 奇奇怪怪的一个名称啊, okay? But most people, 大多数的人认为是 deadly poison, 能够这个毒药品会使人死掉. Deadly poison. Very strong poison. Okay? The crowd, going on, gasped. Okay? What is to gasp? There's a... Did I sound like I was gasping? I got to catch my breath here again. Okay. When you gasp, it's like you can hardly believe what's going to happen, or you can hardly believe what is happening, to the point where it almost is audible, you can hear it, and almost like you can, what do you say, stop breathing even, okay? The crowd gasped in horror, okay? Horror. So, okay, what does it mean to horror? 非常非常可怕. It's very fearful. There's a, oh no, what's going to happen? As the colonel, the man, placed the tomato in his mouth, okay, 就开始吃, and ate it with apparent relish. Now, apparent, 表面上, on the surface. Apparent means on the surface. 是不是真的不知道，不过 apparent relish. What does it mean to relish something? To relish something means to like something, to appreciate something. And often relish means we use when we are eating food. So to relish something is we think it's delicious and we like eating it. It tastes very good. 蛮喜欢的, just we really like it. Okay, with 表面上是很喜欢吃的. Okay, going on. They waited breathlessly. Breathlessly means that they stopped breathing. Well, they didn't really stop breathing, but it's a way of saying that everybody is nervous and fearful what's going to happen. And so it's breathless, no breathlessly. Just describes people who are kind of holding their breath and to stop breathing just briefly. Trust me, they aren't going to stop breathing for very long, okay? Expecting, to expect is 想到什么? So to see him collapse, okay? To collapse, 垮下来, okay? To fall down on the floor, fall down on the steps. Of course, he's on the 法院的 on the 楼梯，人家都可以看到他。They expect him to collapse on the courthouse steps. It's on the courthouse steps, okay? 法院的这个前面的这个楼梯 writhing and dying in agony. Whoa, those are heavy, heavy words, okay? Writhing means to, Mrs. Ash, help me here for a minute. When you're writhing, what are you doing? 翻来翻去, okay? You're turning back and forth in pain. In pain. When you, in fact, we often use writhing in pain. Okay? 痛苦的翻来翻去. Okay? Okay? And dying, of course, 死 in agony 也是痛苦的. Okay? Painful. Okay? So they expect, oh, he ate he ate it. The tomato. He's going to die. They expected him to fall down and in pain and agony. But going on. But nothing happened. Nothing happened. Instead, he was praising 赞美, praising 赞美, the color and the texture. That means how it felt whether it was soft or hard, and he ate a second one. A second tomato. He ate it, explaining that the tomatoes were delicious, 好吃. Either 不单是可以生吃 raw, or 也可以煮. Tomatoes were delicious. Going on. Then he invited onlookers. Remember, we already looked at onlookers. What is an onlooker? Somebody who's standing by watching them to join him in his meal. 他所吃的内餐. Okay, and a few, not very many, of the braver ones, 比较勇敢的, went forward. 走到前面. Soon they were relishing what? 享受, 喜欢 the tomatoes' flavor. So they are enjoying it too. Going on. The news, okay, 这个消息 quickly 传到什么? The state, 整个州 and 全美国呢. Okay. Whoa, you can eat a tomato and not die. Going on. Eventually, tomatoes became widely accepted. Widely accepted. Widely means 广泛的, 广泛被接受. Article of diet. 就是人家所吃的一种食物. Okay? Providing a primary source, primary 主要的来源 of what? Minerals. What's a mineral? 矿物质. Okay? And 维生素 A and C. Going on. Today in the United States, this is United States, all countries grow tomatoes. Everybody grows tomatoes. Very common. In the United States, grows about 9 million 900万吨. Okay? 这个是公吨. Okay? Today, United States, about 9 million metric tons of tomatoes every year. 每一年900万. That's a lot of tomatoes. But are they all red? No. They are not all red. Okay? There are more varieties, 品种, tomatoes, 品种, more than any other fruit. So there are many, many, many different kinds of tomatoes. I've eaten little tiny tomatoes. I've eaten very big tomatoes. I've eaten yellow tomatoes. Have we eaten orange tomatoes? I've eaten green ones. I'm not sure whether that's good. The Chinese like to cook green tomatoes. Many different kinds of them. Some of them are actually sweet. And everybody eats tomatoes differently. Some people, if they eat a tomato, they like to put salt on it. My father liked to put sugar on his tomatoes. My. And some people, did you know that some people think a tomato is a vegetable? It isn't. It's a fruit. 根本不是菜。这个是肯定是什么？水果。But in America, sometimes we think that because it's not real sweet, so sometimes we put it with vegetables. Today, for lunch, I'm going to eat vegetables, but there's going to be a piece of fruit in it, and it's going to be a tomato. Okay, going on. It's hard for us to imagine, 非常非常不容易想到 that there was ever a day, 从来以前是有一天是 tomatoes would be called poisonous. That once upon a time, a long, long time ago, that everybody considered 认为 a tomato was poison. It's funny how you get this idea. I don't know where it came from. Maybe that's something, Mrs. Ash, you need to do a research on, is why people thought they were poisonous. Okay, when they were considered the killer fruit. That means 他们认为这种水果是会杀人的，会杀人。And like I said, how in the world did you come up with the idea that it's the love apple? I've never heard of that. I mean, of apples, we know what apples are. A love apple, and it was considered a fruit that poisoned people and killed people. Can't understand how that is. So there you have it. Well, is it really the juicy red killer? Of course, today we all know that it's not the juicy red killer. Okay, I'd like to share with you just for a minute here before we go. You can write an email to us. Write to the old principal at gmail.com. And go to our website, www.theoldprinciple.org. And you can download these things. You can look at them. You can study them. Lots of long words in today's lesson. Hey, have a good day studying English.